Sean Piper stood in the road outside of his home, the bottom of his trousers wet from walking in the snow. He swayed on his feet and swallowed hard. His eyelids hung heavy after a night trying to forget. He had stayed on long after his friends called it a night, until he had only Jimmy behind the bar for company. It all came back. The shouting and the slam fist against the table. The tears streaming down Mary's face. Little April leaning on the door frame, thumb in mouth. The slam of the front door so violent the timber slats on the porch vibrated. Sean Piper hesitated. The anger and frustration long ago shucked off and replaced with a heavy cloak of guilt. He walked around the back as not to sound the chimes hanging on the front porch and wake Mary and April. He stuck the key in the lock and stopped. A set of tracks led from the back door to the barn, a single set of footprints in the fresh snow. If someone had gone in, why hadn't they come back out? Inside the house, he felt his way around in the dark. The girls would be upstairs, but he didn't want to risk the light waking them. He opened the fridge and after a few seconds, closed it again. He half slipped, something wet on the floor. He turned on the light and stumbled back to the sink. Mary lay on the floor, eyes open but motionless. A pool of blood formed around her head. Deep red gashes covered her body. Sean covered his mouth and then looked up. Where was April? The wail woke the neighbors. Sean came back down the stairs, his daughter a red mess in his arms. He lay her beside his wife. He rocked and punched the floor. And then he remembered the footsteps in the snow. Officer Bradley was the first on the scene. 2 females deceased in the kitchen, a woman and a child. No sign of the perpetrator. The 2 sets of footprints in the snow, both leading to the barn in the back. Officer Bradley called for backup and drew his weapon. The barn door was closed, the lights off. Bradley grasped the handle and turned it, slowly and deliberately. The latch clicked and Bradley inched open the door. He flicked on the light and raised his weapon. Hanging from a beam and covered in blood was Sean Piper. Bradley knew the man. He radioed the station. Apparent murder-suicide. He clasped the radio back to his belt. But then why was there a second set of footprints leading to the barn? Behind him, the creak of timber and soft footfalls on the floor. It was the mid-'80s. I was 11 or 12 years old, and I lived in a small, dusty country town in Texas. It was a mild afternoon, and I was taking my usual route home from school, which usually only took about 10 to 15 minutes. However, this particular day, it would have been a lot quicker as I was bouncing along the footpath, somewhat excited to get home as my dad was taking me on a camping trip that afternoon. I came upon a row of houses about 3 streets back from the street that I was living in. One of these houses had a green hedge that ran the length of the front yard and then back toward the front door of the house. It was tall enough so that I couldn't see over it, but probably a little higher than waist height for someone like my dad. As I was passing the front gate of this house, I could see something coming toward me out of the corner of my eye. As I turned, I noticed a large man barreling toward me, coming down the path lined with the green hedges, straight for me. A little startled, I turned to face him and began backing up toward the street. I lost my footing and began to fall backwards, but my fall was broken by the car parked out in front of this house. Backed up against the car and with nowhere to go, the man grabbed me by the shoulders, and with a crazy look in his eye, he stared into my soul and said, "Hey kid, where's the train station from here?" Unable to speak and trembling with fear, I slowly raised my arm and pointed in the direction of the train station. "Thank you very kindly," he said slowly and quietly with a smile on his face. Then he released me from his grips and headed in the direction that I had sent him. As soon as he rounded the corner, the shock wore off and I tore off down the street, running as fast as I could. I ran past the remaining 3 streets before my street without even checking for cars as I crossed the road. I ran down our street, hurdled our front fence, and started screaming, "Dad! Dad!" Running into the kitchen, where I was met by my mom, who had heard the commotion and came in from another room to see what was wrong. "Tommy, calm down. She yelled so that I could hear her over my hysterical screaming. "Your dad isn't home from work yet. What is it?" she asked as I was trying to catch my breath to explain what had just happened. "And what have you got on your shirt?" she said. Not sure what she was talking about and a little angry with her question because I was not actually too concerned with what was on my shirt, as I was a little more concerned with the psychopath who had just manhandled me in the street than with something I had spilled on myself at lunch that day. Didn't she hear me screaming? However, I could see my mom examining my shirt a bit closer, squinting her eyes to see if she could make out what it was, which then triggered my interest in what she was looking at. My mom then grabbed the sleeves of my shirt and inspected them even closer. She then snapped her gaze from my shirt to my eyes. Looking concerned, she asked me, "Why do you have blood on your shirt?" Confused, I looked down at my shirt, and where the man had grabbed me around the shoulders were 2 big handprints of blood. I explained how the man had grabbed me and how I pointed him to the train station. My mother, as cool as a cucumber, said, "Go and change your shirt. I'm going to call the sheriff." I did as she said, and when I returned to the kitchen with the fresh shirt on, my mother said, "The sheriff is on his way. He wants you to show him where this happened." "But Mom, I don't want to go back there." "Don't be silly," she said. "I will be with you, and we will be with the sheriff." Within 10 minutes, I heard the screech of a car pulling up in the front. My mom and I made our way to the waiting sheriff and his deputy sitting in the cruiser out in the front of our house, and we hopped in the back seat. I directed the sheriff to the house with the green hedges. On arrival, we all got out of the cruiser and stood on the other side of the road. I described to the sheriff where the man had come from and where he had grabbed me and then which way he went. He then asked his deputy to go over to the house with the green hedges and check it out. The sheriff quizzed me a bit more while we waited. "Now Tommy, this is really important. Was the man injured at all?" he asked me. "I'm not sure. Not that I could see," I replied. "Can you describe the man for me?" "Brown hair, I think. Tallish. I think he was wearing a white shirt." As I was trying my hardest to recollect what this guy looked like, the deputy came bounding over to us with a panicked look on his face. "You better come check this out. It's a bloodbath over there." The sheriff's face dropped. The slightly overweight sheriff shuffled over with the deputy to inspect the house, leaving my mom and me across the road. Within a couple of minutes, the sheriff returned and said to my mom, "You better take him home and wait there for me. It looks like it could be a double murder, and this is no place for a lady and a young boy. I will be down soon to have a talk with Tommy. Will you guys be okay to walk home? A bit is going on here, and I won't be able to leave until we get more people here." "Yeah, of course," my mom replied as she grabbed me by the hand. "We will wait for you at the house," she said as she started to lead me down the street. My mom and I walked hand in hand down the street toward our house, not saying a word. I just stared at the sidewalk, my mom just staring straight ahead. I think we were both in shock at what had occurred. Murder in our town never happened, and so close to our house was just crazy. As we crossed the last street before our street, I heard a car roar to life, which startled me a bit, grabbing my attention. I turned my head to see a baby blue colored car parked on the side of the road with no one in it. Then a man slowly sat up in the driver's seat, as if he had been looking for something in the footwell of the car. He put it in gear and then grasped the wheel. This is when our eyes met. It was the same intense stare I had experienced earlier. The man then took his right, blood-covered hand from the wheel and with one finger slowly raised it to his lips and perked his lips as if to say, "Shh." I could feel my heart in my throat and my limbs go numb. I turned to look up at my mom, who was still looking straight ahead and hadn't noticed the car. I decided to join her in looking straight ahead and didn't say a word. The baby blue-colored car slowly passed us. I didn't dare to look in the window as it did. It then drove off down the street and out of sight. I don't remember the rest of the walk home. I think I was still in shock after watching a murderer just drive away. I remember going to my room and pacing back and forth, trying to work out if I should say something or not. I knew the sheriff would be coming back at some point, and he would be asking me more questions. I heard the cruiser rattle up and stop on the curb out the front of our house. I peeked out the window to see the sheriff waddling up to our front door. Filled with dread, I heard him tapping on our screen. I walked to my bedroom door and slowly cracked it, just enough to be able to hear the conversation between the sheriff and my mom. That's when I heard something that made my blood drain from my body. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Deborah, but one of the deceased at the house has been identified as your husband. It turned out that my dad had been having an affair and was stumbled upon by an intruder robbing houses from out of town. Upon finding them, instead of fleeing, he decided to take their lives. I never did tell the sheriff about the baby blue colored car,